Can you believe it, guys? 12 episodes. 12 episodes in on Getting Real with Ronald E. Smith. And today, my guest, I have the full-on pleasure to sit down and chat with writer, singer, and simply your friendly neighborhood full-on voice actress, the one and only Anairis Quinones.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I can't complain. I am up here, typed in a rug with what's been going on in this world. But you know what? I can't complain.
Yeah. I mean, you deal with what you got, huh?
Exactly. And everyone goes, if you don't know who she is, let me give you a little background on Anairis. She's a voice actress. She has done a lot of things out there. She has done audiobooks. She has done video games. She's done some fan dubs. And she's voiced some things here and there, but I don't know if it's that important. But we can see that she has worked her craft for a long, long, long time.
I have, yeah.
And with all that, because now we're all in 2020, for you just to sit back and look at how far you've grown, what can you say for yourself on the journey you've been on so far?
Honestly, it's just been a blessing, like blessing after blessing. I was sitting back and like reflecting on everything I've done so far recently, and I kind of got emotional, and I don't usually get emotional over my career. I don't get very emotional, I guess, in general. So I was just sort of like sitting back and looking back and getting all teary-eyed, and I was thinking, oh man, this is where I'm at right now. I'm at this point where I can see my growth. I can see it clearly, and I just never thought I would be here.
What you're doing is something that, a lot of people, when they're young, wish they can do, and for you, as I think of everyone else who watches, whether it be animation shows on movies and TVs, they imagine themselves voicing said characters. But then when you see you're doing that. Can you say that? Looking at that, can you say that, man, when I was 5 years old, 10 years old, I never would have believed that I would be doing that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I started voice acting probably 10, 11, maybe more accurately, like 12 years old. And back then, it was just like a pipe dream. Like everyone's all like, oh, yeah, I'll end up in anime someday. But I had no idea how I would get there. I just kind of had fun at that point. And even before then, I always had this interest in, I guess, using my voice to perform. I remember being 5 or 6 or somewhere when I was a kid, I had a tape recorder, and I would pretend that I was a news anchor, and I would report the news, and it was a lot of like, recording tapes, like all improv, and then I would redo it all the time because kids find reasons to do things.
Of course.
And when you're a little girl, you're like, oh, I got my Barbie dolls, I gotta do different voices. So like, constantly that was something that I think I was interested in. And I always loved animation growing up in cartoons. That's something I ingested a lot. And shifting over to when I was older, around 12, being able to start in voice acting, just having fun, to now being 22 and actually working in the industry is surreal, to say the least.
If we could just sit back to your early years. Mm-hmm. Now, what shows for you were the ones that caught your eye, that full on made you just fall in love with animation anime because we all have our gateway shows. You know, for some of
We
us,
do.
it's Toonami. You know, a lot of us that was our way of seeing the world of DBZ, Sailor
Hmm.
Moon. You know, me Gundam Wing because I will always rock with that.
That's a good
But
one.
thank you very much. But also too, for people that for like me didn't realize Pokemon, which I always just thought was a regular television show, was an anime. You know,
Yeah, everyone thinks it's just like a cartoon. Like it looks a
exactly,
little different, but it's like, oh, even when you get older and you're like, oh yeah, anime. Like you're like, oh yeah, that's an anime, but it's so embedded in your childhood that you're like, oh well, it's basically American.
exactly. So what were the ones for you that really opened the door for you into the world that is anime?
Oh gosh, Pokemon was definitely a big one that I grew up with. But like I said, it's not something I registered as an anime for the longest time. I used to watch the series all the time on VHS and also like
Talk about
whenever
that. Yeah, talk about VHS.
yes. On VHS, I would get it from I would get the VHSs from the library because I used to go library all the time and I would just sit down and watch them like, yeah, Pokemon. Um Pikachu was probably my favorite because I was basic. Um, and the movies, I love the movies a lot growing up. Like I used to rewatch the movies so often, and to this day, I still think that the movies are like the best thing to come out of Pokemon. But other than Pokemon, uh, I think what was a real gateway for anime in particular was Digimon, because I got into that a little later.
You're a real
And
one. Look at that. Yes.
yes, I love Digimon so much. Like I love both, but I lean a little bit more towards Digimon. Um,
Really now.
I do. I do. My favorite season out of Digimon is Tamers. I love it so much. It's this perfect blend of dark and cheesy, and it's so good.
A lot of people would say that's one of the best Digimon series.
Yes, it is. In my humble opinion. Like my little like hierarchy is like Tamers, maybe Savers or Adventure. They're kind of interchangeable for
Savers.
me.
Savers?
Well,
Wow.
Data Squad, but I watched in Japanese, and that's how it was a gateway for me because, I watched Data Squad while it was airing, but I think it was around episode 15, like the most the English dub had gone.
Mhm.
Um, and I couldn't find any more episodes, and I was like, what? I want more. Like, where's more? And I found the Japanese, and I was like, oh, huh. Well, this is more. I don't. Okay, subtitles. How do I do both? And I eventually figured it out. And I just watched the rest of the series in Japanese. So it ended up being my little introduction to anime in general because I had this little shift of, oh, here's this whole new world of, Japanese cartoons, in Japanese. And it's like, okay. And I could watch it in English or I could watch in Japanese. And I, switched between the two and ended up getting into Card Captor Sakura and Sailor Moon and Bleach and Naruto more officially. Because even though I kind of saw Naruto growing up, I didn't really watch it because I thought it was scary. So, yeah.
But see, I think that's pretty cool. On because I always say that anime, while it has its dark holes that you gotta be careful when you walk into because you might get
Hmm.
lost.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a beautiful world that just brings you into so many beautiful things and helps you understand and really just get you lost on the great things about it. But
Definitely.
so with you of growing up for yourself, because watching these shows, loving these shows, and becoming a fan, were you able to embrace that self for yourself when you were in school, in middle school or high school?
I did. I think I embraced it most in middle school. Um, like come sixth grade, I was just super into anime, especially Kingdom Hearts, but anime in general. Um, and I found a group of friends that I could mingle with and talk about anime with and get really enthusiastic and passionate. And it was a pretty nice thing to have at that age. And I kind of lost that in middle school because I moved a lot. Um, And then high school, I don't know. I think sixth grade was like my peak year, honestly. Um, but yeah, I did have a little bit of that growing up.
I mean, I know sometimes we all have that stage where we're like, you're embarrassed to be a fan, because
Yeah,
in a way they kind of make you feel like you're too old to watch these shows. Why are you should be watching this stuff on MTV, or just, come on, watch some real things that are
exactly.
adults like.
Yeah. I think that was part of the reason why I think later on in middle school I ended up getting this mix of interests where I liked anime. But then I would also watch things like Supernatural and Doctor Who, trying to conform more to what was the norm.
Right.
And it's not that I disliked those shows. I did like them, but I do think a lot of my interest came from wanting to, I guess, have other things to socialize with people about other than anime, because I didn't really, I kind of lost having that little anime circle as I got older, for sure.
Now, did your parents also know of your interest in your shows, or as you were growing up in your career path? Because you said you moved a lot.
Hmm.
So how was that transition from going from place to place, but also to you trying to find who you are growing up?
Um, they definitely knew about it because I was kind of the only child, so they definitely knew about any interest I had. Um, and they were okay with it. I think at first they thought it was a phase, especially the voice acting. They thought that was a phase. They thought that was a hobby, and I have very much proved them wrong on that. Um, but at first they were really okay with it, and as time went on, they got more okay with it to the point where they're like, okay, well, Anairis is just watching her Japanese um cartoons,
Just watch our
so
Pokemans.
yeah, watching her Nintendos, you know.
But see, okay, now growing up, you said now we're moving up from when you're 5, 6, 12.
Hmm.
When did the idea of trying out voice acting? Where did that idea spark from?
Um, partially the internet, because the internet is this lovely place that has all sorts of ideas. Um, but I think a lot of the inspiration for me at that time was the fact that I was so shy. I was super, super shy. And even though I loved acting a lot, um, I didn't really get into the theater scene because, one, we were moving a lot, so I couldn't really break in very easily, anyways. And also because I was very shy. So, like, being in this new area almost every year or so, um, and then, trying to act, trying to learn how to act, trying to do those auditions and everything and be this big personality, this theater kid, like that was very scary to me at that time. So, voice acting was this nice, even ground where I could just do things at my own pace and nobody was looking at me, no stage fright or anything, but I could still act and I could act freely. And I think that was the nice, attractive thing to me, where it's like, okay, I can do what I want and I feel good about it and I can express myself so well. And um, that was definitely the beginning interest in it, for sure.
Now, see, it's funny that you say that you were shy growing up, because whenever I watched your stuff, especially hearing you act and how the way you project yourself, you don't come off at all as a shy person. It seems you have that boost full of confidence and energy. So,
Yeah.
how long did it take you though to get the confidence to believe in yourself that you can do this?
Um, honestly, voice acting was never something I was super insecure with. I'm not sure why. I guess it was just something that felt at home to me, for sure. Because I remember hearing that a lot actually growing up, where, you know, um, especially in like middle school and high school, they'd be like, "Oh, a nurse is so quiet," but then they would see
Once I get to
whatever
know
I would,
you,
yeah, yeah, because they know me. And then they see whatever I'm voice acting in, and they'd see how loud I could get, and they're like, "Wow, she is like this is a different person. Who is this?" So it was a, I guess it was just something I always felt at home with, honestly. Um, but in terms of like overcoming that shyness, because I guess I still had shyness in terms of like, oh, what should I do with this talent, you know? Um, I guess I just came with age and learning to express myself more, because I think when I was younger, I definitely didn't know how to do that. Um, and so as I got older and as I got more mature in this talent, I was able to make more executive decisions where I was like, okay, I'm good at what I do. I'm passionate about what I'm doing, so I'm going to, you know, move to Texas, and I'm going to audition for all these things. And I'm not going to hold myself back. I don't think I have ever really held myself back before. So,
And that's the first step. The one step for us to get where we want to be. We need to believe in ourselves because, of
hmm
course, our greatest enemy is the one we see in the mirror.
exactly. And I don't think
So,
that's something that really goes away, you know?
of
Like
course,
insecurity is a thing that's kind of like there, because even now, you know, doing more industry work, I'll get some auditions and I'm like, oh my God, am I actually ready for this? Especially because, you know, I've had this transition from like doing online work to, um, you know, to like video games, things that, you know, a lot of people don't know about in general. And then getting to do bigger titles like Pokemon. Um, and it's just this constant like inner battle of like, oh, am I ready for this? I don't know if I'm ready for this. But I'll never hold myself back. I never will. But I'll just spend like an absurd amount of time like being like, oh my gosh, I'm not confident enough in this.
and
But I have to build myself up, you know?
there's also that of what you just said too, because there's also kind of a stigma of
hmm
people who have started their voice acting career online. Because I see that a lot. How the growth of them coming from YouTube and web series and then transitioning to major projects. And for some people, they kind of look down upon them because they're like, you didn't do it the quote unquote traditional way to getting in.
Yeah. I think, you know, there's definitely that thought in the back of your head. But I think also we're in this wonderful transition in voiceover in general, where coming from the online sphere is kind of the norm.
Right.
Like one of the first, I guess, major voice actresses to do that was Kira Buckland. Um, and, you know, she started off doing a lot of online stuff. And then now she's, you know, Tubi and Near Automata. And you have a lot of the newer talent coming in who have gone, you know, really prolific, really fast. Uh, that have also come from the online sphere. And so there's this kind of transition of all the younger talent. Uh, you know, they do have this background experience of doing YouTube or Newgrounds or whatever the heck else they were doing. And it helped them because now that they're, you know, entering the industry, they can just kill it because
Right.
they got all their instincts there. I mean, of course they're still getting training, but like they don't need as much training as somebody who's just, you know, coming in super blind, you know?
That's very true. And if I can go with you for a second, because the one thing I did learn about you
hmm
is that for you growing in your inspiration to be a voice actress, the people that you looked up to was Lauren Bailey.
Yes, I adore Laura Bailey so much.
It's always good to have those people, whether we know them or don't, and we just admire them from afar. Of We look at them and we admire their craft. We look at the way they handle themselves, and we
hmm
say, "I want to be like them," or "I want to be where they are," because they give you inspiration and belief that you can do it too.
Yeah, for sure. Laura Bailey was a inspiration that I acquired very young. Because I remember being probably around 12, honestly. Because I'd gone into the show Fullmetal Alchemist, where she plays Lust, and in the movie of the original anime, I think she discusses in the commentary track her approach to creating the Lust voice, uh, which was the most fascinating thing to me, honestly. I listened to it and I was like, oh, that's so cool. You know, like you saw this character and you didn't think about like stereotypical things to do for a voice. You went with a more nuanced approach, and it was so interesting. And then I heard her in other shows afterwards, and I admired her range. It was just like she has this fantastic range. And then, looking her up on Wikipedia, and I was like, oh, wow, look
She
at
did
all
a
the stuff
lot.
she does. And
That's
then seeing her
that was
transition.
my mindset as well.
Yeah, I mean, she has done a lot. She's had this wonderful transition from doing anime to cartoons, video games, and being, as much of a household name as not Laura Bailey, but Troy Baker, so it's such a cool career path that I'm like, oh, I want to do stuff like that. Like I like to do anime, but I also want to get more into doing more prelay for cartoons and also video games. Like I would love to have that kind of well-rounded career. So I looked up to her a lot, and still do to this day, because she just was a lot of my drive growing up.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I had no idea she voiced Kid Trunks. I had no
Yeah,
idea. I was like, what? Are you
so
kidding
many
me?
big titles. Yeah.
So, but just seeing everything that she's done, I can see why you inspired her style and her work ethic on you, and whether that's what you wanted to do.
Hmm.
And through that journey, you started your YouTube channel, and how you just worked yourself, to grow your craft. So with that, how long did it take for you to get your first role, that first voice acting role for yourself?
I wish I was something I kept track of back then, because I was so focused on having fun that I didn't think about, like, oh, this is my first role. But if I had to think about it, I think my first role was this animation. Yeah, this animation about a blob, and it was by this British animator, and I got to play this little girl named Iris, and I forget what the heck Iris was at too, but it was basically using my natural voice at the time, and because I was so young, it was just this higher voice, um, and it was really fun and really cute, and I liked it. I liked it a lot, and then I kind of jumped around from doing that to, I guess, other things. Oh God, I really can't think of my career path. I've done so much.
I
But
mean,
that
it
was
said your
probably the first
IMDb.
one.
It said your IMDb got like 41 credits of things you've done, and I'm like, oh gosh, you
Well,
you
that's
you
just
really
the
knocked it out the
industry
park.
stuff, like that's not even including the online stuff that I did, and that's all scattered in the past, basically.
Are there any things that you look back at and you're like, oh my gosh, my voice, I can't believe I sound like that, but back then.
No, nothing that's publicly around.
Huh, worse.
No, nothing that's publicly around. I have this old files, a bunch of old files from as old as like 2010, that has my voice acting. And it's funny, when I was a kid, I used to sound scarily I used to sound like Rainy from Sailor Moon, like her English dub voice,
Oh,
like
okay.
to a T. Um
Oh
and
my
I'll
gosh.
Yeah, it's so weird. Even listening back to it now, I'm like, wow, my voice used to be like that, because right now it's just kind of like in this weird mid pitch. Um, but I'll listen to that and I'm like, oh, those weren't bad instincts. But then I'll find this really old file where I was trying to do, I don't know what I was trying to do, but I was trying to do something like improv acting, but it was just like really bad. And I have to cover my ears every time because I'm like, why?
That was just you having fun. I think that was just it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where it all came from. Just that want to have fun.
Have you lost that joy at all, or have you ever balanced that of wondering, dang man, like I hope I never lose this, because if I do, I don't know if this will ever be, I will ever stop want to do this career anymore.
Um, I don't think I've lost it exactly, but there are some times where, the passion kind of falls a little bit. Um, like it depends on the job sometimes too, because, I always have way more fun with character work than I do with commercial work. Like that's something where I can always see like, oh yeah, I know I'm having more fun with the character work. Um, but I wouldn't say the passion's never gone away. I've had this nice balance of sometimes things might be kind of hard to do. Sometimes it might feel more like work than the passion, but the passion's still there. It's just that I have to have discipline to kind of kickstart me. It's weird, but I think as long as I have that deep-seated love, as long as I still find myself having these moments where I am so in tune with what work I'm doing and I feel like I'm fully expressing myself, as long as I have that, I don't think it's a career I would ever stop.
Speaking of that, of this career, you would never want to stop, because as we keep going back from when you began till now, during that period, when did you ever, or did your parents ever say, okay, you can do this, but you also need to have a backup plan, like you need to like finish school, you need to go to college? Was that ever a talk for that? Because as you said before, they're still thinking in the back of your head, like, all right, this is a little hobby for you, it'll fade off eventually.
Yeah. My parents definitely taught me to be an overachiever, definitely taught me to do my best. And they definitely instilled in me a idea that you need to finish high school and you need to go to college and you need to get at the very least a master's degree, and you need to have this career that's stable. And as I grew older, I recognized the merit in that as well. I ended up getting I have an associate's now, but I eventually, in my life plan, I do eventually want to get a master's in psychology, because I just recognize that, having that kind of backup plan is good, especially living in America and times like this where, you might not always be able to depend on voiceover. And, that's something I kind of decided for myself, not something that they really instilled on me, although they, whenever I would discuss like my interests or my plans for my life, they would always be more interested in, what are your plans in becoming a therapist as opposed to becoming a voice actor. But when I booked when I booked Ruby, I think is when they started softening up to the idea that I could do this more full time. And then booking Pokemon was just even more convincing. Like now I can, discuss some career movements with them and they're fully engaged, as opposed to, a few months back or like even a year ago where I could bring stuff up like that and they'd be like, yeah. So anyways, about your master's degree.
That's cool and all. That fun thing you do on the internet is cool and all, but how's the education going?
Yeah, how's that going? And honestly, I was going to, not really make industry steps until I had a master's. But then I was so unhappy. Because, I was born and raised in Florida, and being in Florida and doing this daily grind of, you got to do your classes and you got to go to work, and it's a job that it's okay to do, but like it's not something I'm passionate about. And then most times I would be too exhausted to even work on voiceover, and that was so draining. That was so I hated it so much, so that eventually, as I was nearing the end of my associate's degree, I was like, look, this is here. I need to do what I'm passionate about and have everything revolve around what I'm passionate about, because I just can't take that away from me. It's not like it hurts my soul too much. So I kind of made the executive decision of, okay, well, with me being able to book, an anime and Ruby from home, I'm going to go to Texas and I'm going to see how far I go. And if I need to go home, I'll need to go home. But for now, I want to follow my heart.
That's a big step for them, because I guess sometimes we all feel that what our passion sometimes doesn't resemble of what needs to be done to live, and I know it's sad, so that's the thing about life. But you took a step, you know what I mean? Like you took something that you believe that I know that I can do and I know that I'm passionate about. because like in anything, whatever we're doing to complete our goals in life, there are part-time jobs that we do just to keep us alive, just to
Yeah.
keep food on the table, but we don't love them. It's not something we're happy with, but look, it's a living, like the Flintstones. It's a living.
Yeah.
But you took that, and I can imagine a part of you was scared.
Oh yeah. Terrified. I was doing it for my passion, and I guess I was security in a sense, but I didn't know what I was doing, especially when I moved out for the first time. I was like, oh God, this is hard actually. You can't just move out. Like, how much is insurance?
Oh, don't get me started. Oh,
uh, it it's honestly overwhelming, like how expensive it is to just live. Um, and it sucks because, a lot of people, uh, who want to do stuff like this or just creative ventures in general, they just gotta drain themselves and other careers just to support what they love. And, I wish that wasn't the ideal right now, like that wasn't what you had to do. I wish you could just, jump right into what you love to do. But honestly, it's just grinding to the point where maybe eventually you might be able to do the creative thing full time. Maybe,
it's always the journey. The journey
hmm
is never easy. There's always bumps on the road, but with enough, with enough courage and enough drive, the light will always be at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, for sure. As long as the passion is there.
Exactly.
I'm speaking with Anairis Quinones.
If you have enjoyed so far what we've been talking about and you want to find her, see her, and learn more about her, you can go on her website at anairisq.com. And if you want to see her funny side, go on her Twitter, Instagram at Anairis_Q. Now you said you took that step. You took that step. You wanted to move and you wanted to pursue more of your career path. What year was that?
That was last year, 2019.
Think about that. Just last year alone, right?
hmm
Now, 2019, after all the work you've done, through all the voice work and things that have helped you, but also projects that you've been proud to be a part of, you were able to land a role that you talked about before, Ruby.
hmm Well, that was something I actually didn't even book while living in Texas. I had booked that in Florida. Um, so really, I had booked, Pokemon while living in Texas. Uh, but yeah, no, I did get Ruby, and Ruby, oh gosh, Ruby was a huge surprise in so many ways.
Did you ever think you would land a role like that?
No, I mean, I always knew, I was kind of aware of what usually happens when you move to Texas, Like it'll take you a long time to get noticed by directors and being able to work in anime. And, there's no guarantee that you'll get to, work prelay shows like Ruby, especially because Ruby, it's been a while since they've introduced new characters. So, it was just this blessing to have this coincidence of, oh, this season they're introducing new characters, and these characters are people of color, and one of them, Harriet, just happened to be perfect for me.
And when you landed it and the role that you got from it, what was the response? What was the response from not only from the fans, but from the public, and I'm sorry, the public, but more of your circle of friends and family
hmm
when you finally told them everything about this?
Oh gosh. Fans were very excited. Very, very excited because Harriet ended up being a bit of the favorite out of the group of the Aesops. And that was very exciting to see. Everybody just so hyped to see, oh, look at this babe of an Aesop, and she's so cool and she's so confident. And seeing her in the series as time went on, it's just like people fell more in love with her, and that was really cool. And in terms of my family, they thought it was really cool too. I think one of the first questions I got was, "Oh, this is a series. Is this on TV?" And I'm like, "No." But it used to be on Netflix. So I have to kind of like hype them up, sort of.
No,
But
no, no, no. Listen. It's actually pretty cool.
yes, yes. And I'll like pull up like the most recent season. I'm like, look at this. Look at how cool this fight is, blah, blah, blah. Uh, I'll be honest, they were way more into Pokemon,
Of course.
but
Yeah. Okay. That makes perfect sense.
yeah. But and in terms of friends, my friends were definitely excited for me. Definitely. Like they were the ones hyping me up. I didn't have to do anything for them. So
So that's called real friends right there. I
for
love
real,
that.
yeah.
Now, with that, because a lot of people who are coming up through voice acting, that's their dream. The dream
Hmm.
is to get these roles of these big web series, these big shows. That's what they always wanted, but they don't see the hard work and the sacrifices that you got to do to get here.
Hmm.
And when you finally got that, and you were able to sit back for a second and be like, wow, I got this. Did you look at yourself and be like, the work and the struggles and the sacrifice you made were worth it at that point in time for this one?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I sat back and honestly, it's just a sense of, wow, I can't believe I'm here. And I don't think I've really hit that point of reflection, like deep reflection, until very recently. Um, but I guess back then I was just sort of like, oh, okay, that's an opportunity I have. This is a thing where, like, especially being a fan of Ruby, I looked back on that and I was like, oh, this is something I was like, this is something I've achieved. And this isn't just any character. This is a huntress. This is a very cool character, recurring character in the season. And I was proud of myself.
And a little Easter egg too, I guess, for yourself to be like, oh my gosh, I have this. I can pat myself on the back with this. Your idol was also a part of the show too.
Yes, yes. And she did amazing.
I mean, now you got to think about that for a second. A person you idolized when you were young, and you said, I want to do what she's doing. Fast forward, you were on the same show as your idol.
Yeah, yeah.
Think about it. How's that feeling?
Ah, it's just that constant, like, oh, this is so surreal. I can't process this, but it makes me happy, and it just reminds me of how many blessings I found in my career, to be able to be where I am now.
As you all know, I'm speaking with Anairis.
And now, as we move a couple steps forward, and as you brought up before, and I just wanted to save this for a little bit later, so we can just then bring this up. You also earlier this year got a role in a certain show, a certain indie show that I think 2 or 3 people may know about, but you were able to join up and be a part of Pokemon Twilight Wings.
Yes. Yeah, that small show.
I mean, look, it's kind of overrated. No one really talks about that much.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I've seen it in GameStop. I don't know.
But think about that. Think about young Anairis growing up and her running to her room to watch the newest episode of Pokemon and just getting lost in that world. Fast forward, your voice is in the show.
Yeah. That, oh gosh, that was an opportunity I was so excited about, but that was one where I was like, okay, I did my best. I don't know if I'll get it. And then getting it and knowing like how many layers of meaning that had, not just for me, but for other people. That hit hard.
Speaking of those layers, that was one of the things that I saw, the response from it. In Twitter, people were not only glowing from your performance of voicing Nessa, they were talking about, they were giving you just like, yes, that's culture. That's
Yeah.
culture right there.
Yeah.
Everyone was just glowing of representation being shown to its core.
Yeah. Honestly, it was overwhelming in a good way. I expected positive response about it, but not that much, and I was glad to be able to be that. Um, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to take in, and it goes both ways. Of this was this was probably something that you thought, oh, I would love to be a voice in Pokemon, but for ourselves, you're like, oh, it could happen, but I'm not gonna really set myself up to fail if it doesn't happen,
Well, you know
But
what? That never even crossed my mind. Even as
really,
I continued working, I guess more industry stuff, I was just sort of like, oh, well, que sera, like it's fine.
will be, will be.
Because I just didn't think that was something possible. I never set that expectation for myself. It was like, oh, you're gonna voice in Pokemon, or even that I wanted to voice in Pokemon. I was just like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. I kind of doubt it, like that was a LA title anyways, and I was in Texas, like, and I didn't feel like I was LA material, so it was like, oh, yeah, we'll see. But then I got the audition, and I see the name Pokemon, and I'm like,
You faint. You're like,
what?
oh my gosh.
I was like, no way. And first of all, like I see Pokemon, I'm like, huh? And then I see the characters that I get to audition for, and I'm like, oh my God. Because Nessa is such a major character, such a wonderful character that I love, especially because my favorite character growing up was Misty in Pokemon.
No,
And
oh, okay, that's awesome.
yeah. So being able to basically be a water gym leader, the black, and just so cool, so beautiful, so talented, multi-talented, like
Yeah.
that meant a lot.
And I remember when her character was first, shown on the internet, what she looked like. There was a lot of backlash first,
Yeah.
There was a lot of backlash for her character. And granted, I had no idea but for the new game and the new characters, but my word's always the same of I want to play the game and learn about these characters before you say anything.
Oh yeah.
But especially for Nessa, I felt she got hit the hardest.
Yeah, it was just the internet being the internet, I guess. I don't know why. I mean, it's so cool to see darker skinned black characters in anime. Um,
That's 100% true.
yeah, because I mean the first black character we got in Pokemon was Iris, I believe. Uh, and even then she was more in the lighter tone, so
Right.
having a gym leader, a water gym leader, uh, and she's so elegant. Oh, whoopsies. She's so elegant and mysterious and cool, but also very expressive in this nice way. And she's darker skinned. Like that was amazing to see. Like when I was seeing Sword and Shield promotion, I saw her and I'm like, oh, she's the best one. I don't care about anyone else.
Don't tell me nothing. I don't even need to hear it.
Yeah, like I had so much fun fighting her when I played the game. So yeah, I don't know why there. I mean, I know why there was backlash, but I just don't understand why it had to be with her. I mean, I do know racism, but it'd be like that.
It never goes away. But
It never does.
that's the thing, because we understand about that, but also too, when your character, when Nessa was debuted in Pokemon Twilight Wings, and they heard your voice, I didn't hear anyone else say that. It was
Yeah.
just more about her, and then the story that they wrote for her was what we all knew about her. How she was more than just a Pokemon trainer. She's a person with different traits and different likes the things that she wants to do.
Mm-hmm. And that surprised me, honestly, because I was bracing myself for, some kind of backlash. I was bracing myself for trolls, and I was like, okay, this is a big win, but I'm probably gonna get more backlash that I'll just have to deal with. Um, but there was none of that. I mean, to this day, I've not seen any of that, and
Wow.
um, I'm so glad that she's able to be seen as who she is with none of that attached, and she can be appreciated in a fuller form now. And in such a beautiful episode. I was so, like, everything was handled so well with her, and
Yeah.
I'm so proud to be attached to that. Like, it's so good.
And again, as an African American man talking to you, a Latina and an African American, we always say representation matters. You know, it does. It doesn't matter what people don't want to say. It doesn't. Who cares? It does. You know,
it does.
There's a reason why Black Panther made over $1 billion. There's a reason for that. There's a reason. It's people care. People want to see themselves on television. You know, we want to see ourselves showing it. Yeah, I want to be that for the young kids growing up. Even if it's animated, even if it's fantasy, they see themselves.
Because we don't get to see that, you know, especially our generation. Like, I think younger generations now, like, they get to see way more of themselves growing up than we ever did.
Right.
Because personally for me, you know, one of my, you know, darker skin animated inspirations was Katara, and Katara isn't Black technically, but
that's true.
You know, that was the closest I could get. Because, you know, everything else would just be too stereotypical if there was anything. And it was just so frustrating to see. And, you know, even coming from the voiceover field, you know, the only inspiration I could have had other than Laura Bailey was Cree Summer. But, you know, she didn't have Laura Bailey's exact career either. So, you know, it was very limited, you know, the success that you saw in terms of diversity in the industry. So it's very important for us now to, you know, drive the change.
Right. In the back of your head, or has it ever even came up at all, of you being afraid of being typecasted, when I say typecasted, of saying that, of being stuck in a stereotypical role of a person that would they think an African American would be like or sound like?
Terrified. Terrified. That held me back from considering a move for the longest time. I remember speaking to some mentors about it, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I do want to move into the industry, because right now, in terms of, like, you know, the indie stuff that I get to work on from home, you know, I haven't been put into a box yet. But what if I do get put into a box? Because, you know, I'll see other people, other, you know, Black actors in the field just kind of put into this box and not working as much because they're constantly put into this box. And I was terrified of that happening to me. And I didn't want to just work with it. I wanted to, you know, step outside the box. I wanted to do more because I knew I could do more. So for the longest time, I and even now I think, but, you know, I get concerned about that. You know, I don't want to just play characters that look like me, although I do want to represent them as well.
Right.
Because I think, you know, that's important too. I mean, you have somebody who really broke the mold on that was Zeno Robinson and Janie Chambers, and both of them have been able to play characters outside of their skin color. And that's so important because that's how it should be. It should be an even ground where all of us should be able to play whoever we want because it's voiceover, you know? But unfortunately, it's not really an even ground. So it's just working to have really big wins and, you know, give enough opportunity for everyone in the community.
I'm talking to Anairis, and ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very, very insightful conversation. Learn about her drive, how she's grown through her journey, and also, too, what she sees herself in the future. Speaking of that, sometimes we can accomplish some goals, and a lot of people will think that that's it. You know, that's the peak. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You're only 22 years old, and people are praising you, given the respect that you deserve for getting that role and knocking out the park. But then there comes the, okay, what else you got? You know, what else you gonna do for me? That's how a lot of people will look at you when they see you accomplish a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
So, have you ever feared or ever come to your mind of like, this might be my peak of what I can do, or do you like this is only the stepping stone, and I'm only gonna grow from this?
You know, I would think that I would think that this is my peak with Pokemon, but I didn't think that. I I just thought that, I said earlier in the year, like with New Year's, I said that 2020 was going to be my year. Um, and so far it has gone spectacularly for me, even with quarantine going on, which is a blessing within itself. And I I don't think that that is my peak. I believe that I will go farther because I've put in so much work and I will continue to put in so much work because this is my passion. And I think as long as I have, that hardworking personality combined with that passion, I don't think I'll reach that peak.
And with that too, you're allowed to, as you did as a child, dream and fantasize on what other roles you would love to knock off your bucket list, because you already knocked out a few things already. So, are there any other roles right now that Anairis would love to see herself do?
I have never really gotten myself into the trap of I want to get into a franchise or a particular role. Um, I've always kind of thought, whatever is meant for me will come for me. And I think that applies to everyone,
Mhm.
Like you can have these specific goals for yourself. You can want to get into, say, Evangelion or something, or Naruto or Dragon Ball. You can want to get into those shows, but there's a lot of factors that are out of your control, and if it's not meant for you, then it's not going to come for you. So you're just setting yourself up for disappointment, I think. So I've never had specific shows or roles, although I will have like things where I'm like, oh, it would be cool, but I don't get married to the idea. Um, but in terms of, I guess, a general kind of role, type of role I would want to have, I would love to voice a magical girl.
Ah,
Yeah, that's a big one for me. Because I grew up watching so much Cardcaptor, so much Sailor Moon, so much Wedding Peach and Tokyo Mew Mew, all those different magical girl
Tokyo
shows.
Mew Mew. That's something I haven't heard in a long time. Oh my
Oh yeah,
gosh.
it is so good, and I feel like that is just a necessary life goal. And I'm sure as long as magical girls are just a genre, like I will eventually get there. Um, that's a big one for me for sure.
Just to go walk back about what you just said is something that I hear a lot of people who are just starting out in the voiceover industry is, like, I want to, voice DBZ. Oh, I want to be in My Hero Academia. And what you said was very, very insightful, because a lot of them just want that,
Yeah.
they don't want nothing else but that. But for them, because they see the Tara Strongs, they see the Chris Sabins, they see you doing these stuff, and they want to be like you. So now what you went through when you were young watching Lauren Bailey, now they're hearing you, and they want to do what you're doing.
Hmm.
So for those who are listening to that, and what you just said about don't set yourself up just for that, you're more than just that. What else would you tell them in their journey of voice acting?
I would tell them to focus on the passion and have fun. That's the biggest one. Don't set yourself up for a career so early because you're gonna lose the passion so fast. And you know, all of us uh, in the community, the Black and Latino community, we have been working very hard to, have representation matter, um, and be more of a factor. So don't concern yourself too much about if you even have a future. Just tell yourself, I do have a future, and work hard. Work hard every day. With every rejection that you get, you only grow. And no matter how quickly or how slow your career might blossom, it is yours, it is unique to you, and you need to love it with everything you got.
when people see the success, they don't see the rejections that you brought up. You hear more no's before you hear a yes.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
that could sometimes break your confidence. That could sometimes make you question, like, am I worth it? Am I not good enough for this goal of mine?
Yeah, I've had a lot of that for sure.
But no one really sees that, because when they see you on YouTube and these shows, they just see you killing it.
Yeah, well, that's with anyone, right? Like even Laura Bailey or Troy Baker, like you see all the success and you're like, they're fine. Like
Right.
they can get whatever role they want. Um, but that's definitely not the case. It is way more rejection, way more losses than wins, and sometimes you can just brush it off. Sometimes you don't even notice, honestly. But sometimes it does hit. I've definitely had some, I'd say within the past couple of years, that it kind of hit a little hard, and I was like, am I actually good for this? And I'll have this little moment with myself where it's like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And especially transitioning from online to industry, there was a whole lot of that where I was seeing rejection, because I didn't think I would get into Pokemon. I doubted that I would even get a named role in an anime. Well, actually, take back, because I had Kimono friends, but I doubted I would get in with any big anime like that. I thought that would take years, even with the talent that I thought I had. So, it is so many rejections that you gotta take, and if it hits hard, you gotta feel, and then pick yourself back up.
That's nice.
But I think also, having support is definitely important. But I think, your career is very much your own. And I think it's important to learn how to nurture yourself and take care of yourself in your career. Like how to not overwork yourself with auditions. And also how to take rejection better. Learning what's best for you, because that's your career. That's something that you need to nurture yourself, so you need to be able to support yourself.
And I want to thank you for giving me your time. I really do. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, I want to thank you for giving me your time. But before we go, and this is what I always do with my guests, and this is the appreciation time, the reflection time, where we give love to the people that have been with us, that have supported us, and who have been on our side since day one. So if there's anyone that you want to give a thanks to, a shout out, or just a love, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Mark Swint, you were my mentor and helped me when I was super anxious and insecure, and basically being a huge baby voice actor. Thank you so much. Really.
Last but not least, I want you right now, imagine yourself, you're looking in the mirror right now, okay? And you're seeing young Anairis, that young Anairis who was just starting out, the one that wished that she would voice a Pokemon show. Now, for yourself, the 22-year-old who has grown and has moved on and has done a lot of good things so far in her life, what would you tell her right now for everything you've done?
Hang in there, kid. You're going to do great.
That's beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ronald E. Smith. This is Anairis Quinones. And y'all, I think we just got real.
Thank you, everyone. Be blessed.